Hello YouTube, welcome to another Science Biker Do-It-Yourself on the Yamaha FJ-09 aka MT-09 Tracer. Today we're going to be flushing the brake fluid, both front and rear, through all the brakes in the ABS module, and basically this is a service that needs to be done every 2 years regardless of mileage. This is a 2015 motorcycle. It's now the beginning of 2017. And so even though this bike only has about 4,000 miles on it, it's time to change the brake fluid. So it's a very easy job, should take you half an hour max, and so definitely worth doing. Okay, let's talk about why this needs to be done and what's required for the job. The reason that we're flushing the brake fluid is because over time, regardless of how much or how little you ride your motorcycle, brake fluid absorbs moisture from the air and atmosphere. And when it comes out of the bottle fresh, your brake fluid should be clear, see-through, look like water essentially. After a couple of years, you'll notice your brake fluid has turned a murky brown, and if it's older than that, possibly black. And that is due to absorbing dirt and moisture from the atmosphere. That absorption of moisture will therefore reduce the effective boiling point of your brake fluid. So if you are doing heavy braking, whether riding your bike on a track or descending down a mountainous grade and you're under braking, your brakes get hot, your brake fluid gets hot, it is possible to boil your brake fluid. But more likely than that is that, especially on Yamaha motorcycle ABS modules, if you don't change your brake fluid, the moisture is absorbed into the fluid, and that moisture will corrode and rust your ABS pump. And so then after, let's say 5-10 years, whatever, you go to make a hard stop and you expect your ABS pump to kick in and prevent one of your wheels from locking up, and it doesn't, and it allows the rear or front wheel to lock up, or both. And you say, why is this happening? Well, it's probably because you didn't change your brake fluid and now your ABS module has corroded and is not operating. Sometimes those modules can be rescued at that point by doing a brake fluid flush, but usually you're looking at a new module. And by the time that happens, the bike's usually out of warranty and you're looking at an expensive and involved repair. Changing the brake fluid on this bike is so stupid easy that there's just no reason not to do it, especially, you know, because the tools it requires are so simple. So let me show you what it needs. You need a Phillips head screwdriver to take the 2 screws out of the front brake fluid reservoir, to take the cover off that rather. You need a 10 millimeter combination wrench to loosen the bleed nuts on the front brake discs and rear brake disc. You need 1 or 2 bottles, depending on size, of DOT4 brake fluid. It says right on your brake fluid reservoir, use only DOT4 brake fluid. If you go to an auto parts store and you're looking for DOT4 brake fluid, you may see bottles that say DOT3/4. DOT3 and DOT4 brake fluid are essentially the same standard, except for the fact that DOT4 has a higher specified boiling point. So if a brake fluid is DOT4, it automatically meets the standards for DOT3. So if you see DOT3/4, that's okay as well. But this says Prestone DOT4 synthetic brake fluid. That's what I'll be using today, but brand is irrelevant. I'm using this Harbor Freight Speed Bleeder because I have an air compressor and it makes extremely quick work of this job. All I do is hook this up to my air compressor, regulate the pressure at 90 psi, pull the trigger, and it creates a vacuum on my lines, sucks out the old fluid while I'm able to just stand here and keep the new fluid topped off. Works beautifully, makes this job extremely quick and easy. If you don't have a large air compressor, because it does require a reasonably substantial size to do this, you could easily do this with a Mighty Vac hand pump. That would work absolutely fine. It would take you maybe an extra 5 minutes, but still great option. Just get a Mighty Vac hand pump, suck a vacuum on your bleeder screw nipple, and pull out your old brake fluid, just got a pump instead of just letting the air compressor do the work. That's the only difference. And as far as if you didn't, you could do this by, get a buddy, have them pump the brakes, crack open the lines, the old method of pump, pump, pumps, hold, tighten the bleeder screw, pump, 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 hold. You just got to be careful. You definitely don't want to let your master cylinder, front or rear, run dry. So with that, I'm going to get started doing this, and we'll be done here before you know it. Okay, we're going to start with taking the cap off of the brake fluid front reservoir. We'll start with the front brakes and move our way to the rear. Phillips head screwdriver, make sure that the screwdriver bit you use fits the head correctly, the Phillips head correctly, because they are soft metal screws. There's the bottom of the reservoir. I'm just setting that down on top of this towel covering my tank, and there is the disgusting brown fluid in my reservoir, or my wife's really. Okay, we're on the left side of the bike as you would sit on it. And this is the left brake caliper, and this would be your bleeder nipple for the left side disc, which is the furthest away from the front brake cylinder reservoir. So I'm taking off this rubber cap which covers it. This is a 10mm combination wrench. I'm just going to use it to, look at that. They used a different size on the FJ-09 than they did the FJ-R. Okay, so this is a 10. In fact, you need an 8 for the FJ-09. Just a moment, I'm going to go grab that. So that's interesting. I literally just finished doing this exact same job on my FJ-R, and it used a 10. The FJ-09 uses an 8. So an 8mm combination wrench, and I'm just going to loosen it up ever so little. You'll see brake fluid start to drip out already from gravity. I'm covering up with the Harbor Freight speed bleeder, and when I pull the trigger, it's going to start sucking. Unlike my FJ-R, there's only one bleed port on each FJ-09 caliper. So we just bled the left side of the bike caliper. Now this is the right side of the bike as you were sitting on it. And the bleed valve nipple is right here. And we're just going to take off the rubber cap and set it on the ground next to the bike. Loosen it up with our 8mm wrench, put our speed bleeder on it, and watch our brake fluid level as we bleed the brakes up here, and then we'll move to the rear. The rear brake fluid reservoir is right here on the right hand side of the bike by the passenger foot peg, and so there's absolutely nothing you have to do to access it. Just come here, and there's a little guard on it, but mine's not been opened before, but let's see. Hands are a little slippery. Come over here, and this is what, a 4mm Allen key, I believe. And I'm just going to loosen this up to wiggle it away from this guard. See what I got here. Alright, so this will pull it away from the guard if you so choose. Help you get the cap off, just the one little 4mm Allen key. Help take this lid off. And the rubber seal. Okey-doke. So that I will be able to pour fresh fluid in as I bleed the rear brake. Okay, here's our rear brake caliper, and right here is our bleed nipple. Pulling off the rubber cap using the 8mm. You gotta be kidding me. They put a 10 on the rear, but 8's up front. Why? Just to be difficult, to make you have multiple wrenches. They can't stick with one freaking wrench. There's no excuse for this, Yamaha. Alright, so for whatever reason, Mama Yamaha decided that she'd give us a 10mm bleed nut on the rear caliper and a 8mm bleed nut on both front calipers. And then, you know, on my FJR, oh, it's a 10mm on all the brakes and an 8mm on the clutch. Just pick one. Okay, so I'm going to crack this open. Put my speed bleeder on it. Wait till I see a little bit of, hopefully, yep, a little fluid coming out. Speed bleeder is on. Now I just got to pull the trigger and keep an eye on the reservoir as I suck the old fluid out. That's it, we're done. Tighten her up. Ah, frick, wrong wrench. Hey Norbert. You see that? What do you think about that? Nom 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 nom.